On today's topic, I'm going to be talking about my CCR question 1. I guess let's get started. The question is, how does your product use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues? So for my film, I wrote about a typical teenage girl going through insecurities. So to answer the first part of the question, how does it use challenges or conventions? It uses conventions and it does not challenge conventions, really. Here are some examples. My main character is a stereotypical girly on-trend teenager. In the film, you can see that she's reading Taylor Swift, she wears a lot of pink, she has a lot of makeup, she has a very typical room, a lot of stuffed animals around her, and I think this is a really good representative of a typical teenage girl, and that is something that follows conventions. Aside from the materialistic things, she also has the typical thoughts and motives of a teenager. The point of my opening was to show a teenage girl's insecurities mostly, and just the way most girls feel about themselves in regards to both herself and her position with her peers. My character is insecure about her body. You can tell the way her face looks, how she's not maybe as pretty as so-and-so in the magazine or so-and-so online. And you can see that throughout, and it builds on that throughout. She also is influenced by the media, and I put that in there. She's looking at Instagram, she's looking at Pinterest, she's looking at things that, typical girls her age would look at, and comparing herself to that, even though that's probably not what she should be doing. That's what most girls across do, and that's what I really wanted to represent because it is such a typical experience. So that does, again, use conventions to continue my story. And by using these conventions, I feel like I was able just to get the point across much quicker, much easier, and very clear. I think if I tried to challenge conventions or do anything of that sort, it just wouldn't work with what I was trying to get across. So by using a typical teenager and by using stereotypes that apply to women, being like the color pink, makeup, all this, I was able to get my story across much easier than I would have if I used challenges to conventions. That's the first part. The next part of the question is, how does it represent social groups or issues? By using the typical mindset of a teenage girl, it represents a lot of issues that many women in our society face, both today and in the past. The first one I really touched on was insecurity. The whole opening is about my character being insecure about the way she looks, how she's perceived, her weight, the way she is around her peers. The whole point of the opening is just to show the pure insecurity so many people have and just exemplify and exaggerate that. Showing her in the mirror, looking at herself, picking at herself, by showing her doing her makeup and picking at herself, we can all see like she is insecure, and that was the main point I wanted to get across in the story. By looking at her peers, by looking at other people online that she doesn't even know, and by looking at all these conventions that society has set for her, she is playing into the insecurity role. She is showing how insecure people are because of these things. Another thing that it represents is the expectations placed on women. Like, so many women are expected to be this, to be that, and I feel like a good example of that, which I used in opening, was a couple pictures of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is one of the biggest examples of a woman that is expected, has everything expected from her. She's expected to look good at all times. She's expected to be kind at all times. She's expected to be just this pinnacle of a woman. And although she does represent that, a lot of the time for many young girls, no one can be that. And I feel like by using Taylor Swift specifically in that situation, and by showing how she is perceived and how women are expected to be, it allows for the audience to understand that there's so many expectations on women that just aren't fair. And it even trickles down to the character as she is trying to fit these expectations, trying to be skinny, trying to look like this, trying to impress people because it's the expectation of being a woman. Look feminine, look pretty all the time, like always trying. Those are the expectations for a woman, and I feel like that was a big thing that was applied in my opening. The next one is the desire to fit in with your peers, that I think I've explained. And then body dysmorphia, just the way she looks at her body, the way she says she wants to be this skinny, she wants to look like this. it shows just insecurity and the way that so many women in this world look at their bodies as something that they shouldn't be proud of, something they have to work for, which shouldn't be the case, but it is the case. And I really wanted to represent that and contribute to the ideal that women don't have to be a certain way to be proud of themselves. Those are the groups and issues I represent, and that is my podcast for CCR1.